So Connor, as an artist, and I'm intrigued because I've kind of seen some different opinions here. You know, have you looked into music NFTs? Like, I've seen people, you know, artists, especially because so many of these art NFTs have been popular. They like NFTs. They like that they can create things, can directly sell to people who want to buy them. They can collect royalties when it gets resold. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts there? You know, this is kind of like, sure, the torrenting hurted anyone who made music. You know, I mean, maybe it, like we said, maybe it hurt Apple more than it hurt the artist, but it definitely hurt both. I don't know what, like, how does this help the people creating? How does Web3?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we could have like a whole conversation on this alone because I have a lot of thoughts on it. But yeah, sure. I have looked into music NFTs. I haven't dropped anything myself. I am working. I say working. I mean, me and a friend have been working on this project for easily a year at this point. So I'm not sure if it's going to see the light of day, but I hope it will because I think it's kind of a cool project. It involves music in it. Yeah, I think there's a lot of good things in the space, and I think there's a lot of just razzle dazzle, whatever in this space. So I think a lot of artists are not using it to its full potential. They're just kind of using it as like another source of income. Oh yeah, I'll sell some little collectability kind of token, and I can get a little extra cash on the side. I think what NFTs for an artist, particularly for a music artist, what they have the best potential is it's very difficult as an artist to make money doing anything but playing live shows. Obviously,
yes,
like we just said, very little music that gets recorded actually ends up back in the pockets of the artist. I mean, the money doesn't end up in the back pockets of the artist because just the way the system is set up, they get a very small cut at the end of the day.
Connor, can I interject here? This is why you see the big artists making their own record labels. This is why Drake has OVO. This is why Taylor Swift re-recorded all of her stuff and released it. This is why you see the biggest artists building their own things. Death Row, Snoop Dogg. I dabbled in listening to rap quite a bit growing up in a basketball family. It gets played around your peers. So being around that, I've been able to kind of, and I dabbled in music industry a little bit myself, Connor. I'm not a composer, but I sang. And so I know what you go through from that area.
Yeah.
It's bad.
It's a little more complicated than that too, because it's not really just the actual industry itself that's cheaping the artists. I mean, it is the industry. I was going to say it's not the publishing companies themselves, the record companies. It is, in a large degree, it is, but it's also just the fact that the industry itself has suffered from basically decentralizing technologies that allowed people to just download music without paying. So the actual money share of the whole industry has tanked since the internet. And because of that, the publishing companies are getting more greedy, and then artists are making less money because there's not that much money to go around overall in the recording side of it. And that's why you see a lot of these big bands like Aerosmith and they're launching world tours again because because they need the money because they're not making money from selling records anymore. That's the reality of it. You would be surprised how many big name artists need to go on tour to pay bills every year.
Yeah, that's why you see all those bands from the 70s and 80s still going on tour. That's why the Rolling Stones are still rolling out there, because they don't own their own catalogs. And instead,
but even if they did, I'm saying the money's not really there. They need to tour. So
for sure.
Yeah, could Web3 like further fix this in some way?
Yeah,
is there a way to?
Yeah, let's get back to Web3 because that's what I was going to say.
I'm curious, like, is it something about the playing rights of it? Is there something to like, is there a way to guarantee every time it's streamed that like some kickback comes to me because I own it? I don't know. I don't know enough about the legal side or the ownership side to know.
The royalties
what
need to get back to the artist's pockets and not the publishing, like the music publishing companies.
But how would you do that in the streaming world, in a streaming and downloading world?
Connor,
Sorry, let me say my opinion here. this is a real red pill in the music NFT space, at least in my opinion. I could be wrong, but I think we kind of just have to accept that the recording industry, like, there's not going to be payments from royalties that are really making a musician's day in a long time, because nobody wants to pay for music that way. Unfortunately, I think that's just the reality. And so, but what I think NFTs have the potential to do is kind of return us to what the music industry used to be, which was totally reliant on patrons. So now we basically have democratized like how patronage works with the record industry, and that the musician and artists have to cater to hundreds, thousands, millions of fans, basically, to make money. So basically, their incentive is to make their music as much of a mass appeal as possible, right? And in the olden days, it was basically a handful of very rich patrons that liked an artist and would just give them money to basically create art. And then the art that the artist created was basically free for people to enjoy. And there was a lot of good things about that system. One, it removed the need of mass appeal for the artist and let them really dive into the creation of, art that they really liked and enjoyed. And then also, it was free. There was no streaming. There was no buying records, right? You would just go and you would listen to the music for free. I mean, I know there was whatever. You would have to pay for concerts sometimes, I imagine, and whatnot, to pay the musicians to actually perform it. But we're all very used to paying for live music anyway. So what NFTs allow people to do is create a small kind of like collection, and then that a much higher price. But these are your true fans. These are people who really want to, support you, and they're going to pay a much higher price to basically be a patron of you, be a supporter of you, and maybe you give them some kickbacks, maybe you give them some extra things. But instead of catering to basically millions of fans, now you're going to cater to a small group of your NFT collectors, right? And you can kind of turn that into like a new patronage type system to make money in the music industry. Does that make sense? I kind of
yes.
I'm not sure I explained it totally too.
No, Connor, I like it made sense. Yeah. The thing about it is it's going to take somebody the likes of a Taylor Swift, though, to move her catalog to like an Audius or something like that, to really send waves to other artists that this is the move. Because I know of a couple artists that released an album on Audius and they promoted it, but it just did not hit, and it kind of flopped. And so right now I'm on Audius right now. Like, I see some stuff from Steve Aoki, Skrillex, but like those are niche audiences. I mean, I feel like a lot of Web3 people would be into that type of music, so they actually are doing pretty well on it. But until we see more mainstream artists moving over to the Web3 direction, that's what will cause for more integration in the space, and people that wouldn't normally be in the space to move towards it. Kind of like what we saw with artists and NFTs. All of a sudden, we saw a bunch of artists that didn't care about crypto or blockchain, but saw a way to do art in a digital way that they didn't even think was possible, plus get paid for it on the side. It shifted a whole new audience into crypto because of what NFTs were capable of, which is really cool. So,
well, because what NFTs did is they made digital art collectible, and that was something that wasn't really thought of. It's not that you couldn't collect digital art; it's just that people didn't, because
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do think music might have a harder time, right? If I can prove that I own this ape, which is slightly different than the ape you own, there's something collectible there, where music, it's not like I own this slightly different recording of the song. It's a song, right? And it's, you'd have to listen to it to find, if there was a difference, you'd have to listen to it to find the difference, where, I think it's not like a visual, like this is my avatar is my slightly different recording of Connor's song. So I don't know. I do wonder if, how music will have to break into that. A lot of the NFT appeal, I think, is at least what people think about is the art. If I talk to anybody about an NFT, I'm like, I'm trying to say, look, no, you can just send out an NFT and it tells you that, oh, that person or that wallet like was there, or you send that to them and they're like, okay, but what does it look like? And it's like,
right.
It doesn't have to look like something.
Yeah, no, true.
Yeah.
No. I think part of the problem too is people want to come into Web3 and replicate Web2 systems on Web3. And I think that's the mistake. So it's not like so much that, and to be fair, I really have not looked into Audius that much. So I don't totally understand what their platform is. I know it's a music streaming platform. I don't understand what makes it different from, say, like SoundCloud. I'm sure there's something there, but I just wouldn't look at like, how many people are using Audius as per se like a example of adoption, because I think there's a different way to adopt is, I guess, what I'm saying. I think there's a different mindset that can kind of be collected when you start to realize that you have a potential with Web3 to do something that you can't necessarily do in Web2.